mitigation is reducing, and adaptation is change our behavior. So for mitigation, the first thing we can do is to reduce human emission from fossil fuel as quick as you can. Why does the concentration of CO2 in 2020 become lower? It's because of the pandemic of COVID-19. So everyone was staying at home. They were not emitting carbon by driving the cars, burning the rubbish, or any earth damaging works. But however, if humans completely stop using any fossil fuel, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere will not return to the pre-industry level. It will just stop increasing. So to reach net zero emission, it requires more than just reducing the emission. And now the adaptation takes place. To bring the atmosphere level of carbon come down, humans should create new sink. As I mentioned just now, the carbon cycle consists of two systems, that is sources and sink. And create a new sink mean planting. So human can also amplify the action of old sink. For example, restore the forests that have been degraded, or maybe change the way in running pastoral land so the soil can store more carbon. So you might think it is complicated, but there are people out there who are working really hard on it. And this is called the negative emission schemes. There are a new technology called negative emission technologies, and also known as greenhouse gas remover. This technology allows us to remove greenhouse gases, usually carbon dioxide, from the atmosphere. And this means this technology can help to suck carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and pump it back into the geology. So in a nutshell, I would like to share with you, like it took 100 years to destroy the balance of carbon cycle, but it will take many hundreds more to restore it. And it is a lifelong job to achieve net zero emission. And the people from all walks of life should work together so that we can achieve net zero emission. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tan Yom Sing, for the informative presentation earlier.
It is now the turn of our fourth panel member, Ms. Shiva Rubini Anak Perempuan Murali from 2PSMP BM2, with a talk focusing on protecting our natural resources and reversing biodiversity loss. Please welcome Ms. Shiva Rubini.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you to the moderator. I'm Shwaribini Murali from Tripia SMP BM2. As society strives toward more sustainable development, it is very important to properly manage the bond between biodiversity and human needs. Current world governments are collaborating into sustaining world development by focusing on education, health, and environmental qualities. Next slide. I guess, does anyone here know who is this little girl? Okay, the attention of all the world's greatest governments and the people are drawn towards the environmental issues solely because of one 15-year-old girl named Greta Thunberg. She had a protest outside the Swedish parliament in 2018 regarding her concern about the Earth's climate crisis. How can a small girl have so much concern towards the Earth's environment but be neglected by the elders? This educated the world population, that not only elders but even children are responsible for taking care of our one and only home, the Earth. Today, I was given a chance to share my opinions and concern about protecting our nature resources and also reversing biodiversity loss. Talking about nature resources, they can be defined as the resources that exist on the planet. Humans are tremendously dependent on the Earth's resources for their survival and sustainability. The raw materials which are dug from Earth core layers, the food obtained from nature, the water and the geothermal power, and the power in the form of geothermal are essential to humans. Therefore, the management of these resources is crucial. The sustainable utilization of major nature resources such as land, water, air, minerals, forests, fisheries, and wild flora and fauna are to be taken to consideration. Together, these resources provide the ecosystem services that lead to a better quality life. Nature resources provide fundamental life support in the form of both consumptive and public good services. Next. We all know that the Earth is approximately covered 70% by the ocean. Thus, the ocean is one of the major biodiversity streams. It covers more than 90% of the planet's space and is home to 250,000 species, with many more still to be discovered. At least two-thirds of the world's marine species remain undiscovered. Next. According to the United Nations Conference paper, which had been released on 5th to 9th June 2017, titled The Ocean Conference, states that the world's ocean contains 500,000 to 10 million marine species. It's proven that the ocean also plays a vital role in absorbing carbon emissions. Oceans have absorbed as much as half of all anthropogenic carbon emissions over the past 2 centuries. Blue carbon ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrass beds, tidal marshes, and other marine and also coastal vegetated ecosystems are among the most intense carbon sinks on the planet. Apart from that, marine phytoplankton is well known in producing 90%, is well known in producing 50% of oxygen on Earth. Despite other importance of the ocean that provide to us, the most important to mankind is the resources that is given in the form of food via capture, fisheries, and culture operations. Next. As we know, this kind of ocean-based sources of food have large benefits for human health and nutrition, economic returns, and employment. Next. It is because it provides food in the form of fish and shellfish, which is estimated at around 200 billion pounds caught each year. A major challenge around the globe is to obtain these benefits without compromising the ability of the ocean to continue to provide such benefits for future generations, that is, to manage humans' use of the ocean for sustainability. Evidence of the critical role of marine biodiversity in sustaining a healthy world and societal well-being continues to emerge. Hundreds of millions of people, particularly low-income families, rely on the fishing and aquaculture industries for a living, and they contribute directly and indirectly to their food security. Coastal communities all across the globe rely on marine ecosystems for a variety of services. Mangrove ecosystems, for example, provide food for more than 210 million people, while also providing a variety of other benefits such as livelihoods, clean water, forest resources, erosion, and extreme weather protections. As we know, a nature resource facing scarcity, which is most drained by the increasing biodiversity loss. Whether we are aware of it or not, there was a lot of biodiversity loss, which also unknowingly affected natural resources. We all know that some actions by an irresponsible human being or that doesn't care or don't have any exposure to the environment cause biodiversity loss, such as land use change, overfishing, overhunting, and overharvesting. Keeping in mind that these are the some threats being faced by the mother nature, I was called to share my thought about overfishing as an activity that leads to biodiversity loss as well as threats to our natural resources like the ocean. Overfishing refers to as when a significant number of fish are captured at once, overfishing occurs and the reproductive population becomes too small to recover. It is sometimes associated with inefficient commercial fishing techniques that bring in large quantities of undesirable fish or other animals, also known as bycatch, which are subsequently dumped. Overfishing is a worldwide issue that puts future generation ocean species, livelihoods, and seafood at risk. Why is overfishing a problem? Overfishing is one of the most serious dangers to the health of the ocean and their populations across the world. Many individuals are directly affected by the overfishing, particularly in underdeveloped nations. Tons of fishes are dragged out of the water every day. Unfortunately, this amount is significantly greater than what can be restored naturally. As per the information collected from the internet, there are so many miserable facts associated with overfishing. It is estimated that today each individual consumes an average of 19.2 kilograms of fish per year, about double the amount consumed 50 years ago. Where this to current fishing practices result in around 38.5 million tons of bycatch per year. Due to illegal and uncontrolled fishing accounts for 11 to 26 million tons, which is 12 to 28% of global fishing. The marine species have declined by 39% in just 40 years. Nearly 30% of commercially fished fish stocks are overfished. More than 60% of fish populations have been destroyed. According to a statistic, the number of fish stocks that are overfished is increasing up to 3 times compared before. A third of fish populations have been depleted due to overfishing. Unsustainable, illegal, or destructive fishing can significantly impact biodiversity. Overfishing has an impact on not just on the fish that are targeted for capture, but also on other marine life that becomes entangled in fishing activities and boats. Not only that, but it also causes biodiversity loss because fish species are threatened with extinction. Approximately 30% of fish species are overfished globally. This indicates that they are being eliminated from the water at quicker rate than the population can recover. If current trends continue, certain fish populations will be extinct in a few years. Practically all of the world's fishing stocks are in danger of being overfished or have already been overfished. Furthermore, 93 million tons of fish are caught each year, but 38.5 million of these fish are bycatch. This indicates that the fishermen had no intentions of catching the fish. They were simply at the wrong location at the wrong time. Many of these fish are thrown away. Even if they never make it to the market, this has a direct impact on their population. This is due to fishermen's favorite fishing tactics in which they exclusively process specific species. However, bycatch is generally underreported. We just have estimates, so the final figure might be far higher. Essentially, a third of the fish taken from the ocean are never eaten. It becomes increasingly difficult to capture fish when more fish are removed from the water. Typically, industrial fishing enterprises can absorb these losses or relocate their fleet. People who rely on Fishing for food, on the other hand, cannot simply relocate or adjust to catching fewer fish. Many populations across the world rely on fish as their primary source of nourishment. These are often low-income and tiny island nations with limited access to alternative protein sources. According to a study, 20 million individuals may have avoided malnutrition in 2000 if overfishing had not occurred over the previous century. As the level of overfishing rises, so does this statistic. Right now, the devastation of fishing population is causing real problems for actual people. It is not something that will cause problem in the future. According to the global tally, if we continue on our current course, fish may become extinct in the ocean by 2048. This applies to almost all fish populations, including some we don't consume, such as dolphins. We will run out of food if we consume all of the fish in the ocean, and the people will suffer. This doesn't even take into consideration the fish taken as overfishing. How does overfishing affect biodiversity? Overfishing has a variety of effects on biodiversity. According to a marine science today, it affects the food chain. For example, if a species becomes extinct as a result of overfishing, the animals that rely on it for sustenance may starve or resort to eating other fish species, affecting the ecosystem and food chain as whole. Sustainable fishing includes keeping suitable fish in the ocean while also safeguarding ecosystem and endangered species. People who rely on fishing can keep their job if the oceans are protected. First one is sustainable fish stocks. Fishing must be conducted at a level that allows it to continue eternally while also ensuring that the fish population remains productive and healthy. Improved regulations with effect the lack of regulations and specific policy and the effect that fishing has been an industry tied to the history of human civilization. Many groups like the World Wildlife Fund are helping countries learn to prepare adequate and effective management protocols. The consumer should also know where their seafoods came from. Thus, the Marine Stewardship Council, MSC, have a certification that fisheries can gain by bringing their practices up to date and also labeling seafood for sale. The governments should declare more marine protected areas to help reduce the effect of overfishing within their respective countries. A fisheries' long-term viability is a continuous process and many are needed to make additional changes. Scientific knowledge is always improving and fisheries are being pushed to create innovative methods for protecting marine resources for future generations. In a nutshell, maintaining healthier fish stocks embedded in a full functioning ocean ecosystems and habitats is for planetary function. Ending overfishing could reduce the collective pressure on the ocean and increase its resilience. This ensures that improvement of food and nutrition security, increase income and improve livelihood, promote economic growth, and protect our environment and nature resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva Rubini, for the splendid presentation just now.
Now comes the turn for our last panel, Turgashini Anak Perempuan Subramaniam from option for PISMP Mathematics 2 with the title Overcoming Climate Change as an Individual. With all due respect, we welcome you. To all the audiences, hopefully you can wait for Miss Durgashini because she's having an internet connection problem right now, and she's trying. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Durgashini Subramaniam from 5 PISMP Mathematics 2. Today, I'm here to talk about pathways to net zero emissions, and the topic that I chose is overcoming climate change as an individual. Next slide. Next slide. First and foremost, let's get to know the meaning of climate change. Climate change is defined as long-term change in average weather patterns and temperatures. Climate change can be occurred due to natural phenomena and human activities such as burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Burning fossil fuels generates and releases greenhouse gas emissions that trap the sun's heat and raise global temperatures. The example of greenhouse gas emissions are carbon dioxide and methane. Next slide. How do we know that climate change is real? Okay, now let's see some of the evidence that shows that climate change occurs in Malaysia. For example, in December 2021, our country faced severe flooding and landslide in few states due to heavy rain. Next slide. Besides, we are also witnessing extreme weather changes such as prolonged heat waves in our daily life. These flood, landslide, and heat waves are the effect of climate change that are occurring locally. So we must act as an individual to overcome the climate change that we are facing right now. Next. Now let's see the measures that we should implement to overcome climate change as an individual. Firstly, to overcome climate change, we must control the usage of transportation such as cars. This is because cars contribute most of the greenhouse gas emissions, which leads to climate change. Instead of using a car, we can use public transportations such as a bus or van. Other than that, if you guys are working together or going to the same place, you can share a car with your friends, which can reduce the greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere. For example, according to this diagram, one bus is equal if we want to travel locally. Moreover, is global. Protecting green spaces is every individual's duty. Green spaces such as reserve forests, parks, gardens, and trees around us are playing a vital role in overcoming climate change. These green spaces help us to absorb greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Besides, it also helps to regulate the global temperature by cooling down the overheated places around us. Other than that, it also helps us to absorb the rainwater and reduce the flood risk. So, as an individual, we must plant more trees. You can create your own green spaces in your houses by planting more plants in your garden and by protecting it. We also must protect the conserve and reserve forests around us, such as parks and community gardens, to overcome the climate change in the future. Next slide. In addition, we must eat less meat and dairy products to overcome climate change. Climate-friendly foods plays an important role in overcoming climate change. This is because fresh foods such as vegetables and fruits reduce the carbon emissions from transportation, preservation, and prolonged refrigeration. But meats and dairy products releases more carbon emission, which leads to climate change. Now, let's see this chart. Here we can see that meat releases the most carbon emission into the atmosphere compared to other foods. So, as an individual, we must reduce the intake of meat and dairy products by implementing a few other effective ways. For example, we can buy organic and local vegetables and fruits compared to meats. Other than that, we can also grow our own vegetables and fruit in our garden. Finally, we must make sure that we are not wasting the foods. Next slide. Last but not least, we must reduce the energy used to overcome climate change. The small changes in an individual's behavior will help us to reduce energy and cut down the carbon emissions. For example, we must switch off or unplug the television, computer, radio, and other electronic appliances when we are not using them. Other than that, we can swap the gas stove that we are using in our house into an electronic stove. Finally, we can also replace the light bulbs with LEDs or other low energy bulbs to overcome the carbon emissions. This is because normal light bulbs releases more carbon emission compared to other low energy bulbs. So these measures will help us to reduce the climate change that we are facing right now. Next slide. Besides, an individual can also be a teacher. Now, let's see what a teacher can do as an individual to overcome the climate change. Teachers play a dominant role in educating students about climate change. For example, teachers should teach the students about the causes and consequences of climate change to the earth. They can organize a campaign or environmental week to educate the students from the young about the climate change. Teachers must teach the ways to overcome climate change in order to save the earth. Other than that, parents also play an important role in educating their children. Parents are the great example for the children because children always imitate what they see from their parents. So, parents should implement the effective ways in order to overcome the climate change. So, here teachers and parents' roles are very vital in overcoming climate change as an individual. Next slide. To conclude, overcoming climate change is every individual's duty. A small change in an individual can make a big change to the global. The power of one. Don't fall for the lie that one person cannot make a difference. All powerful movements begin with the actions of individuals striving for change. Your action count. Be the change. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Turgashini, for the informative presentation just now.
Thus, that concludes all of the presentations from all 5 members of our panel. We will now continue the program with our next segment, which is the quizzes competition based on all the informations and knowledge that has been shared by all panel members just now. We are pleased to inform you that there are prizes available for participants who successfully take first, second, and third place in these quiz competitions. Attendees may use quizzes code that will be displayed on the screen before the quiz begins. We will now begin our quiz. First of all, congratulations to all attendees who successfully answered the quizzes questions just now. Next, we are pleased to announce the winners of the quiz competition that was held. The third place winner is Samuel from TESOL 2, and the second place is won by Naomi, and last but not least, the first winner goes to Jawida. Okay, and that concludes the end of our quizzes competition. The highest appreciation and congratulations are extended to the winners who have been successful in winning our short activity.
Attention to the students of RPG Temanggung Ibrahim campus who participated in this program. You are asked to fill in the program attendance through the Google Form link that has been shared in the Facebook live comment and also in Zoom live comment section to enable you to obtain a certificate participation. The cooperation of the audience is very much appreciated. Thank you. To all our respected audiences, we have now reached the end of the Sembang WWF program for our 2022 session today. Surely, the good comes from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and every weakness comes from ourselves. So thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Attention to all the audiences. Hope we can spare some time to take some pictures together as a great memory to cherish. Audiences are welcome to turn on the camera and ready for the photo session. The cooperation of the audience is very much appreciated. Thank you.